Hello and welcome to lesson 2 of Last Epoch University. In lesson 1 we covered the very basics, or as BMAP would say, the introduction to Last Epoch. And today we'll dive a little bit deeper into one of the systems, or two of the systems, the skills and the passives. These are some of the first things that you will encounter in the game and some of the most important things to know when it comes to building your character. This will be a introductory level lesson on skills and passives. So if you're a player who's been, playing for quite some time, I don't think there'll be too much here that you won't already know, but we'll go deeper into some of the aspects of build making and whatnot later, and that might be more up the alley of someone who is a veteran player. Over this one, we're more geared towards newer players who just want to have a good general understanding of how the skills work, how the passives work, and how to incorporate them into their play of Last Epoch. All right, let's start with a note on some upcoming UI changes, because in the next patch, Last Epoch is very likely to be getting a huge UI change. And so you're going to be seeing, I'm going to be putting the game on screen several times. And if you are playing this at 0.8.2 or later, it might look much different to you. I doubt it will change functionally very much. So if it doesn't, I'll probably leave this as is. And just know that you're playing the same thing. It's just going to be like kind of shifted a little bit differently. If it's a huge difference and like it's obviously going to be super confusing, I'll update this. But otherwise, everything should work the same for you. It'll just be kind of put in slightly different areas. But all this information should remain relevant. All right, let's start with skills. Skills are the abilities that your character uses. There are 3 very general and oversimplified types. They're damage, support, and hybrids. Damage are pretty self-explanatory. These are the skills that do damage. Support can play a variety of roles where they're giving you more defenses, healing you in some way, buffing you in some other way, some offensive way, buffing your allies. They can do quite a few things, and hybrids are some variation or some combination of damage and support. Like I said, these are very general, oversimplified, because the way Last Epoch works, its skills tend to be extremely flexible. And so a skill that's a damage skill might also be a support skill, or might become a hybrid skill depending on how you allocate your skill points. But that should give you a general idea of how they work. These skills are so customizable, as I said, that many skills can become any of these types. So just because a skill seems to be damage on the face of it doesn't mean it can't be one of the others. Do bear that in mind when you're looking through the skill trees. How do you unlock skills? There's 3 different methods. Through leveling, you'll just naturally unlock skills. You'll also do that through putting points in your passive tree, and you also get a mastery skill when you select a mastery. So we pull these up, we can kind of see what it costs. In fact, let me get to a lower level character who has more skills that are not unlocked to make it a little easier to see what's happening. This guy's way too high. Okay, that music's pretty loud. Let's go with this guy. All right, so actually these are all unlocked too. So these ones here, I'll just point it out to you. These are almost all, they're leveled through 2 different ways. They're just like, you have to be a certain level to get them unlocked. So like I think Warpath unlocks at like level 5, something like that. And then there are some in here also that unlock the passive tree. So if you're putting points into the passive tree and you get to, say, Rebuke, costs 5 points to get into, that will unlock the skill. You go to 10 points, you will unlock Shield Rush, 15 Shield Throw, so on and so forth. Even the mastery skills or mastery trees have these unlocks in them. You also have unlocks from choosing your mastery. So this one's got Holy Aura, this one's got Forge Strike, and I actually mastered this so you can't see it, but it's a Racing Strike. So each mastery has its own skill that's unlocked when you choose your mastery class, which we'll get to how to do that real soon. Okay, yes. Okay, let's talk about the skill hotbar. The skill hotbar is this thing down here. This is where you're going to allocate your skills. You're going to put them in there so you can use them. You're going to use a total of 5 skills. This is lower than most games, but it works pretty well for the way Last Epoch plays. You really don't need any more than 5. To allocate them, what you do is you click on the desired button that you want the skill to be in. So like if I click on my Q button here, I will have a group of skills that I can choose from. These are all skills I've unlocked, and I can put whichever one I want into that slot, or none if I want to for some reason. Also an option. Your keybinds can also be changed for every button slot except for left click. So if you want to change this from Q to, say, I don't know, X, I go in my settings. I go into my change input keys here, and I change this Q, and I just put X in there. And then it becomes X. Very easy. Left click cannot be bound to a skill directly, but it can use skills from other button slots. This confuses a lot of players. So they think you should be able to put a skill in here. That's not quite how it works. You have 3 options you can do in your left click. You have this one is just move only. Then you have move or break destructible. So if I put this one on, I would just move. But if I ran across, like, say, a barrel or something on the ground and I clicked near it, it would break the barrel. And then the third option is move or attack. When you choose this, it's going to bring up 5 different options up here. These are the different slots for different skills. So if I chose this, it would activate Shield Rush on move only in certain scenarios, though. So only as long as the ability is targeted or you are holding shifts. So for example, if I put in my Vengeance, which is a basic attack skill, and then I went over this, it'll start attacking it like that, no problem. But if I choose Shield Rush, it should not Shield Rush. It will not Shield Rush. Oh, it will if I get close enough, apparently. Some of these skills will not work quite that way. So let's see. Actually, I think Abyssal Echo is a better example. I can't just attack with Abyssal Echoes, but if I hold down Shift, I will use Abyssal Echoes while holding left click. So left click and Shift works on skills that don't directly target enemies. If it directly targets enemies, then it works just fine. Autocasting is a pretty hot topic in Last Epoch right now. Some skills can be autocast through a Windows keyboard function. I will link to how to do that. I have a video on that below. It's a pretty simple thing to do if you want to. It is not a bannable thing to do so. Some people are worried about that. If it was, I would not show it to you. I certainly wouldn't have a video about it. You will not be banned if you choose to autocast. But with that being said, the devs don't really like it. So they're actively making skills inefficient to autocast. So currently only a few skills really benefit from it. The game is really quite functional without autocast. Again, only a few skills will really benefit from it. If you're using one of those skills, you might want to use it. Otherwise, I wouldn't really worry too much about it. I think autocast is something that's going to mostly go away in the future for the reasons mentioned about the devs not really liking it. Skill trees. So let's talk about skill trees. This is a really big part of what makes LE Last Epoch, what makes it unique. Almost every skill has a unique tree. Eventually, all skills will have a unique tree, but right now we're very close to every skill of a unique tree. So for example, if I click on Vengeance here, it's got its own skill tree. Looks like this. If I click on Warpath, it's got a totally different skill tree. If I click on Hammer Throw, it also has a different skill tree. When you're putting points into your skill tree, which you will do as you level. So for example, I've got 13 points into Vengeance. The closest nodes to Vengeance, in this particular case, or whatever skill's in here, will be immediately accessible. So this one, this one, this one, and this one. As you put points in, it will unlock corresponding nodes that are adjacent to whatever node you put it into, assuming you've put the right number in. And you can tell which number you need to put in by the little dot here. So as long as I put 1 point in double riposte, I can unlock Rapid Strikes, which I have. To unlock Bolster off of Executioner, I need 1 point. But to unlock Blade Assault off of Executioner, I need 2 points. I need the 2 dots to be filled. Eventually, you'll be able to specialize in 5 total skills. So again, you can see on here that I have currently unlocked 4 skills. I've got Vengeance, I've got Shield Rush, I've got Erasing Strike, and I've got Abyssal Echoes, all specialized. And I have this other slot here that's locked because I'm not yet level 49. As soon as I'm level 49, I will be able to allocate another skill to be specialized. Skills gain points by gaining XP while they're specialized. So those 4 skills I have specialized, I'm getting XP when I'm killing things or doing whatever I'm doing that's getting XP. Those skills also gain their own independent XP. Maximum of 20 points can be put into each skill without specific gear. So I have 13 of these. As I level, they'll continue to go up until I hit 20. There is certain gear in the game that can increase that number by actually giving you skill points. We will cover that in a later class. Okay, let's talk about Respeccing Skills. So this is another feature for new players that can be a little confusing, but is definitely important if you want to experiment with skills, or let's say you went down a path on your skill that you don't like. You want to try something else. How do you do that? So all skills can be Respect. What you do is you go into the skill that you want, and you have two options. So let's say I go into Abyssal Echoes here, and I click on this Respec button, and it gives me two options. I can remove points, or I can despecialize the skill completely. If I despecialize the skill, I can put a new skill in, or I can put that skill back in and start it back from level 1 if that's what I want to do. If I go to remove points, I can remove individual points. So for example, I can take a point out of here, take 2 points out of there. So those 2 points are now removed. I can now stop respecing if I want to. And so I am down from level 12 to level 10. You might notice that I don't have those points back. I could have those points back depending on how far I went. So if you see up here, I have a minimum specialized level of 6, which means if I drop to 6 or below on this, I will gain those points to put back in. Let's go ahead and do it. Let's show you what it looks like. We're gonna drop more points so we get down below the 6 threshold. Go there, and I'm gonna stop respecing. Now I have 1 point because I am right at level 6, and so I have a minimum spec level of 6. So now I can now allocate another point back into here, but I can't allocate back up to where I was. I have to re-level the skill to get to that. Good news is I do have accelerated XP for any of the points that I have taken out. So I have, you can see up here, accelerated XP gain until level 12. So this skill will actually level faster than a fresh skill would have through those levels until it reaches level 12, at which point it will go to normal XP. I just covered all that minimum specialized skill stuff. Yeah, good. Covered everything there. So this is one thing to bear in mind as a new player. Respeccing at lower levels can be punishing because it can take a while to get back points that you've lost. But at a higher level, it is very easy to do so. So if you find yourself that you've respected and it just kind of sucks, do know that that's not a permanent problem in the game currently. Personally, I would like them to gear it more towards being easier to respec at lower levels and harder at higher. But right now it's flipped. It's a little bit harder at lower levels and it's a lot easier at higher levels. One other thing to note is the minimum specialized level that I was showing here up top, that increases as you level up to a maximum of level 10. I believe that's at level 75, character level 75. You get a maximum of level 10 on all of your skills. So at that point, anytime you like despect, you get 10 points back. All right, passives. The passive tree, which is, you can click on P to get to that, is this sort of behemoth here. This is the passive tree. Each class, including the base and all the masteries, have their own tree. Recall it's 80, not 75. I think it's 75. It doesn't matter. Either way you get it. I think it's 75 though. So the base class has one. So here's Sentinel, then Void Knight, Forge Guard, Paladin. They all have their own parts of the tree. You get points in the passive tree via 2 ways. You get one for each level you get. The current cap in the game, and probably always the cap, is level 100. That's a maximum of 100 points from that source. You can also get additional points for some of the quests during the story. I think it's a total of 16 right now, but don't quote me on that. It's a decent number of points, and you'll get them fairly early in the game, so you have quite a few points. Okay, let's talk about how to actually navigate the passive tree, though. So you're going to start with your base class, in this case Sentinel, and you'll put points in, and each of these little notches here counts as 1 point. And so depending on how many points you've put in will depend on what nodes you can access. So if we look at like just a base, like a no point passive tree, we have here the Forge Guard. You can see I have no points in, but I can just barely touch these 3 nodes down here. And so I can allocate points into these 3, but I can't allocate points into anything higher. But as I put points in, this colorization will rise, and anything it touches will become nodes that you can then put points in. Each of these are broken up into 5-point tiers. So This starts at 1. 5 points in, you can access this tier. 10 points in, you can access this. 15, 20, and so on. Oh yeah, and the other thing to talk about is similar to the skill trees, there are some nodes. You can see I have these little connectors here. That means there's a certain number of required points put in the previous node to access the top node. So to use counterattack, I would need at least 1 point into overwhelm. To access banish, I would need at least 4 points into counterattack. Okay. We have base class, we have mastery class. How do you choose your mastery class? You get the option of one mastery or one mastery class for each character. So you'll choose one of the 2 or 3 depending on the class you currently have. Doing so will open up the entire tree for that mastery and half for the others. So if you look on this character here, I have, it says right here, Void Knight has been mastered, and I have access to the entirety of the skill tree in Void Knight. And the other 2, I have access to the bottom half, not the top half. So I can click this to look at it, but that's not going to change it. I still won't have access to it. I can only have the bottom half for both of these. You also gain passive bonuses for your mastery selection. So for Void Knight, I have now 75% increased melee void damage. And my melee attacks, throwing attacks, and void spells have a 10% chance to be repeated by an echo half a second later. If I had chosen Forge Guard, I'd have 35% physical and fire resistance, 3% increased armor for each hit I've taken in the last 10 seconds. And if I had chosen Paladin, I would deal increased fire damage and physical equal to a percent of my remaining health. I have 1% increased healing effectiveness per point of attunement. Now, how do you get to the mastery class? How do you actually get it? This occurs by following the main quest, and you'll reach the end of time at some point, relatively early in the story. Probably about 1/3 of the way through. And the area I'm actually in on this character is the end of time. We are in the end of time. And so you'll get here at some point. And when you do, you will come up these stairs. All the way up these stairs. And the quest will tell you to do this. And you will negotiate with these 2 people up here. And you'll eventually go in this thing here. And when you do, you will do the mastery quest. At the end of the mastery quest, you will get your mastery class, or the choice to make your mastery class. You're always going to want to get your mastery class, by the way. There is absolutely no reason not to get it. It's always a benefit. To actually access the mastery class nodes, so if you want to put points here or here or here, not only do you need to have mastered one of the mastery classes, you also have to have at least 20 points into your base class. I have 31 in here, so I'm perfectly good. I can absolutely put points into those. But if I were to only have 19, I would not have access to these until I put another point in. Now, Respeccing Passives works differently than it does for skills. It's a lot easier, is the general idea. So to do so, you want to find someone who's got this pink head right here. There's one right in the end of time. I'm going to have to go all the way down to access him. Okay, there's one at the end of time, and I think there's also one in the council chambers. I think that's the only 2 places they currently exist. So I talked to Chronomancer Lorraine, and the passive tree comes up, but it says Respeccing Passives up here. And now I can actually take points out. So let's say I want to take a point out here, and I remove it. And I immediately get back the unspent point. And so I can leave the respec and put it right back in wherever I want to. I'll just put it back in the same spot. Now do note that you can't take points out lower if it would prevent a skill from being, or a node that you already have higher from being usable. Example, let's take a few points out of here. Let's take 1 point out of here, and let's put it into finality. Then go back in, and I'll try to take out a point here, and I can't do it. I can't respec it. And the reason being, because there's this point up here, and if I would have taken it out of here, then we would have dropped below the threshold to activate that node. And so that's not possible. So we need to take out this point first. Once we do that, now we can take points out. The other thing to note is that you have to have at least 20 points in your Sentinel class to respec in these ones, similar to how you have to have that to have 20 points to get to these. You have to maintain 20 points. So if you ever try to take out points in your base class and you try to get to 19, you won't be able to do that until you take out all of the points in all of your mastery classes. You can do it, but it's kind of a hassle, and you can only take out currently 1 point at a time. So I can't go in here and take out all 8 of these at once. It would be really nice if we could. Currently not functionally possible. I do expect at some point it will be. Right now you have to take them out all one at a time. So a little tedious, but overall the system is very, very forgiving. And you can see the gold costs right here. As you go down, it costs less per node. Like now I'm at 140 on this one. This one's a higher one, 960, 840, 720. That covers the skills and the passives. If you have any further questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section on YouTube, or you can feel free to join us on Twitch, where I stream 5 to 6 days a week, or you can feel free to join us in our Discord and ask questions there as well. I will drop those links in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great time in Last Epoch.